As we finish micro assignment 1 and we move on into writing essay 1, we want to think about taking notes and research. So today we're going to talk about taking notes from a source. Most of you know how to annotate and you've done your annotations of your primary text, but now we need to begin thinking about taking notes from a source. So just like you would read the regular text, the primary text that we read, and want to immerse yourself in that text, we also want to do that with our source material. So we read carefully, we annotate, and this is really key, we read the footnotes and the bibliography, and we read them again. The bibliography is an amazing source for other source material, and whoever has written this particular source has already done a good deal of research, so we want to take advantage of that by looking at the bibliography and seeing if we can use any of those sources. When we want to find sources, our first stop will be the Milligan Library. You can do this on the library webpage by searching Milligan OneSearch, or you can go directly to their databases and search things like JSTOR or Atlas, or other different kinds of search databases there that are particular to your field of study, and I can help you with that if you're interested. But OneSearch will help you get through the basic kind of searches. With keyword searches, you need to know that less is more, especially when you're searching the library website. With Google, you can put as many words out onto the search engine as you want, and it kind of assesses that for us and helps us along, but we don't want to do that. You want to be sure that you're using quotation marks around phrases. So if you wanted to search Milligan College, you would have to put quotation marks around Milligan and college so that it searched those two words together as a group. If you have any trouble about thinking through that, I will be definitely talking about it in class today, and you should bring questions. The internet, of course, is a great source of information, but we don't want to just go with our first internet source, especially if we're just popping something into Google, because we do have all these great vetted sources. And with all of the concern about fake news and misinformation these days, you want to choose the sources that have the most credibility. And we'll be talking more about that in class as well. Catalogs, the actual library catalog, and books. Books are great. We don't use those as much as we sometimes have used them in the past, but they are available to us. And WorldCat is a worldwide card catalog that searches books all over the library, and we can get those to our library pretty quickly. So what kind of search terms would we use for the bulletin board essay? Well, clearly there's not going to be an essay on the bulletin board that we saw, so you might be searching for an article on small liberal arts colleges and increase in athletics. Well, that's a big mouthful, so you would probably put small and liberal arts and athletics. And that's probably all you would need in a database search. For the Kincaid essay or the Barry poem or the Modest Proposal essay, you would do the same thing. You want to think about what it is you're searching and then pick out the most important key terms, getting rid of whys and hows and increases and things like that. We'll talk more about those search terms in class as well. So some strategies for taking notes. I know that many of you have probably done this in high school. Maybe you had the note card method that I had to do in high school and that my son has had to do in his past research essays in the 8th grade. There are other ways of doing that. I just use a spiral bound notebook, which helps me keep everything intact. I have a page for each bibliographic citation, and then I take notes word for word by hand into my notebook and make sure that I write the page number down. If you use a word processor and you copy and paste, the danger, of course, is that you end up accidentally plagiarizing. And so whatever works for you, I'm not going to prescribe a method for taking notes. I just want you to take the same care with the secondary sources that you would take with the primary source. So here's an example note card. You would have a bibliography card where you have all the bibliographic information, and that's very helpful. And then you would have a note card in which you put the source number or letter followed by a quotation and then followed by the page number. This is great if you can keep track of your note cards. If you can't keep track of your note cards, then you lose all your research. So it's good for some, not so great for others, but it is a method that you can use. How do you use your notes when you're done? You can outline your essay. You can pull them all together and sort of synthesize this information, and then Use that outline to decide where you want to put that information. It can help you write your thesis, and it can help you dialogue with that evidence so that you can have an informed and interesting idea regarding the evidence. I do not ever want you to simply plug in information, drop in quotes into an essay. That's not a dialogue. That's not a good conversation. And remember, our whole ethos this semester is having a good conversation. Why should we cite our information? First, it avoids plagiarism, which is a practical reason, but it offers further reference. I like to think of citation as an egalitarian gift to my readers. So if you want to know what I know about this topic, I'm going to give you the access keys to find all the information that I had. So you can double check me, we can have an informed conversation, and you too can have the same access that I did. It also builds intrinsic ethos. It tells my readers, it signals to them that I have done my homework and that I know what I'm talking about. And of course, most importantly, it supports your argument, and that's why we cite, not just to avoid plagiarism. When students understand that we cite for a higher purpose, really, than simply to avoid plagiarism, sometimes it helps students understand the importance of getting it right. So if you write in your paper, according to Dean Shelby, the president of Jenkins Foundation for Healthy Eating, 10% of all school children eat their only healthy meal at school, and you cite Shelby 42, then on your Works Cited page, I would go to the S part of the alphabetized section and look for his name, and then I would look for that particular citation. And I'm sorry, but 2007 should not be down on its own line. It got messed up in the formatting. And what that means to me, if I check out that book and I turn to page 42, I will find that quotation that you used. And that internal citation is like a roadmap that takes me to your Works Cited page, and that Works Cited page would take me to wherever I could find that book, and in that book I could find the same information. And as we dialogue with a source, you want to take your evidence and then you want to respond to it. Evidence does not need to be restated. So don't say, this means that. Instead, you would move on to the next logical step, which is, if 10% of all school children eat their only healthy meal at school, then in the summer, those 10% of children go without a healthy meal. And so my claim would be that maybe neighborhood lunch programs could fill that nutritional gap. And there are many options. There's not only one way of interpreting evidence. Instead, the way that you interpret that evidence and the way you put it forward is part of your claim. So as we move into our Works Cited work and our research, you need to know which source you're using. Journals are different from electronic sources, and there are print journals and electronic journals. And most of the journals we will access have a printed version, but we access them electronically. This is not a big deal, but your hacker kind of makes a separation between the two. Books are cited differently than newspapers, and so on and so forth. This is why the hacker is so helpful, because it has a neat little menu at the beginning of each citation style that helps you parse those differences. Works Cited format, remember, is a separate page. It's in alphabetical order. It is double spaced, and it uses hanging indent, which is part of the paragraph function of your formatting in your word processing document. If you don't know how to do that, please ask during class and I will do my best to help you. And it does continue the running header in the top right corner. Here is a sample MLA Works Cited page. An APA Works Cited page doesn't look terribly different. The dates are a little bit different, and it usually includes a DOI number, which is an organizational index number for APA citations. CMS is a little bit different. They use endnotes, but each one of those is cataloged in the hacker, and I can always help you with questions that you might have. All right, after identifying the primary text for analysis today during class, we are going to begin thinking about source materials and trying to find those sources. So we are moving into our research phase of writing for Essay 1. And if you have any questions, you should let me know. We'll be glad to talk about it today. Thanks.